48 hours from now, we will know the outcome of the Dolphins' Week 11 matchup with the Raiders. We're getting our final predictions here today on Locked On Dolphins.
You are Locked On Dolphins, your daily Miami Dolphins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Miami, welcome to another episode of Locked On Dolphins. It is your team every day. You're on the Locked On Network. I'm your host, Kyle Krabs, a lifelong Miami Dolphins fan, host of Locked On Dolphins, co-host of Locked On NFL Scouting, author of Touchdown Miami, and the NFL Draft lead for the 33rd team. Want to give a special shout out and thank you to our everydayers because it is your team every day. We don't just say it, we live it here on the Locked On Network. Today's episode of Locked On Dolphins is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return over on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Surprisingly busy afternoon between the Dolphins and Raiders releasing their injury reports. The news that former Miami Dolphins center Connor Williams has decided to hang it up and retire. And then, of course, we have the actual game itself to get ready for between these two football teams. So we're going to kind of look at this game through a number of different layers, starting with final predictions for this contest. I do think the Dolphins win on Sunday. And this probably, if I had to make a bold prediction, would be the first game the Dolphins play this season that I think replicates a lot of what the success the team had last year against teams that struggle is. And I know there's a number of changes to this coaching staff. Joe Philbin's been elevated to the offensive line coach. Scott Turner is now the interim offensive coordinator after Luke Higetzi gets dismissed. Norv Turner comes in out of left field. But just Gardner Minshew has not played well this year for the Raiders. 6 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. He has a sack rate of almost 10%, a passer rating of 80. He's averaging less than 190 passing yards a game for a team that averages running the ball 3.5 yards per carry. They're dead last in the NFL. And now they're missing multiple starting offensive linemen in this game. So I think whatever changes they try to make, they may have some new wrinkles, the Raiders, but I think this is a team that is down some notable talent. Nate Hobbs at corner is going to impact their ability to play on the secondary. Obviously, we talked about the defensive line yesterday when we had the Locked On Raiders crossover episode. I kind of think Miami wins and they win big. Now, if you're not somebody that enjoys the roller coaster ride of emotions that come with the fans on social media after wins and after losses, like you're probably gonna get a little irritated because I do think the Dolphins win this game. I think they win this game going away, and I think that will lead to and fuel more of the not we're back, but like we're going on a run type of vibes within the fans, and it's certainly mathematically possible. But that conversation for me starts when you get back to 500. So. Will we be fired up if we win? Yeah, because I always want the team to win as a fan at heart. But you could expect on this show, if indeed this comes to pass, the Dolphins win this game by multiple touchdowns, which I think is on the table for them with kind of the momentum of the team. You know, the Raiders won 2 games. They won, and they've lost 5 in a row. They beat the Browns by 4 points when they had 268 yards of offense, and they beat the Ravens in the weird game of all games in week 2 when they had 260 yards of offense and were outgained by 130 yards, but still somehow managed to just scratch out like the oddity win and win that football game. So look for Miami to kind of get some explosives back on track this week. I think you'll get more opportunities when you consider what the Raiders have defensively in the secondary, when you consider this team played this coaching staff last year. Remember, they played the Raiders with Antonio Pierce and Patrick Graham. So there's some familiarity here. And the Dolphins have another week under their belt of kind of acclimating to how teams are playing Miami differently than what their core principles are when they play everybody else. And it's as dramatic of a difference of any team across the league. So for Miami, that's averaging about 25 points a game since Tua Tagovailoa's come back, playing a team that's conceding 28 points per game. They're 30th in the league in scoring defense. I don't think you get there without explosives. And the Raiders just within the past couple of weeks, they've given up a 36-yard run. They've given up a 47-yard pass. They have made some mistakes on their own offensive side of the football that have yielded touchdowns. Fumble return for a touchdown, a pick six, another fumble return for a touchdown against the Rams. There's a 30-plus yard touchdown that they conceded a little earlier in the season. So they have not been immune to giving up explosives. And because of that, I think Miami, it's going to look a little bit more like 2023 Dolphins would be my expectation going into the game. And if it doesn't, then we'll have the conversation about why and what it looks like. But that's just kind of where my frame of mind is as I evaluate these two individual teams and where they are at, and a team that's starting to build some momentum versus a team that's kind of dead in the water and just pushing buttons to try to facilitate some changes and make it look competent. That's the vibe that I'm picking up on this game. And I don't think it's a coincidence that, as we'll talk about when we talk about FanDuel in just a minute, that this game continues to linger at more than a touchdown spread between 7 and 7.5 points. It's one of the biggest spreads of the week, actually, for a team that's 3-6 playing at home against a 2-7 football team. I think there's a certain level of frustration that comes with a team that I think you can look at the talent and what they're capable of and say they're better than a 3-6 team. But at the end of the day, your record is what you say it is. So you are what your record says you are. So it's up to the Dolphins to kind of take the next step forward on Sunday and climb out of this hole. I think that happens. I think Chop Robinson gets another sack for the third straight game. I'm really interested to see how Jackson Powers Johnson fares. This was a player that a lot of Dolphins fans had very high up on their wish list for the Dolphins in the draft. And he's been a part of kind of a platoon of players. He hasn't been like unequivocally given the keys to the car as far as being a starter, but he has played. And given the fact that Cody Whitehair's out and Andre James is out, you expect that we're going to see a lot of Jackson Powers Johnson. So I don't have a bold prediction there, but let's just say I'm interested to see how that one plays out, especially with Miami having Calais Campbell and Zach Sealer firing on all cylinders after the game on Monday night. We're going to get into the Dolphins side of the injury report next. We have some updates there. The final injury reports came out less than an hour ago. We're going to get into that next year on Locked On Dolphins. Make sure that you stick with us. With big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, the price you thought you were paying magically skyrockets. With Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about the gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. So you could say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered to the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Ditch overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's deal and get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/LockedOnNFL. That's mintmobile.com/LockedOnNFL to cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/LockedOnNFL. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower than 40 gigabytes on unlimited data plan. Additional taxes, fees, restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. We talked about FanDuel. You can get ready to tackle all of the NFL action this weekend over on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the Dolphins-Raiders games, you can check out the latest stats, view the live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page as where you place your bets at FanDuel.com. You can visit to join today and get started with $150 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com. This Dolphins-Raiders game, the current update as we get daily here on the show. Still sitting at Dolphins -7. The game total has gone down to 43.5. So if you got in on it when it was a little higher earlier in the week, good for you. But the trends for the game and point totals in this contest is dwindling. So if you think it's still going to go over 43.5, you can get that action. The Dolphins, the under would be -105, and the Dolphins -7 is at -115. Not a lot of great value on the money line with the Dolphins at 340, but you can use whatever gut instinct you have and get in over on the action at FanDuel. So never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So kind of set the stage for this game. I do think the Dolphins win big, as I said, but there are some players and some storylines to watch for Miami. Kendall Fuller's been ruled out. There was a non-participant in all 3 days of practice. Wednesday was a walkthrough because of the short week and playing on Monday night and having to travel back home. All right, so Kendall Fuller's out. Mike McDaniel said on Friday he's feeling better than he did with the previous concussion, and that doctor said he was not expected to need an extended absence. So I think that's good for like the short-term return window for Kendall Fuller, who obviously has had 2 concussions this season, and that gets a little dicey. Players who are ruled as questionable for Miami, there's 5 of them. Terron Armstead is one. What's interesting, Terron Armstead on here was a non-participant all 3 days, but his injury is listed as rest/knee, and he's been on for a knee for quite some time. I would not be surprised if Terron Armstead ends up getting put on the 2022 plan, which is the and I think it benefits the team in multiple ways if they end up deciding to do this. Don't forget, in 2022, Terron Armstead, there was a stretch where he simply stopped practicing and just played on Sundays. And with Austin Jackson going down, I would be pro at this stage of the season, Miami with practice, specifically with Terron Armstead, handling him with as much care and load management as you possibly can. And I know people roll their eyes about load management and being a soft football team and all that, but like Terron's done it before. I have the utmost confidence in Terron being the one guy on the roster that you could say, hey, you're just going to suit up on Sunday and be ready to play. So that's a value in you're reducing the strain on Terron to increase, theoretically, the likelihood that he makes it to the end of the season. There's also the element of Patrick Paul reps in practice. And Terron can be limited and do like light sparing stuff if he needs to. But if you have Patrick Paul starting to take, along with Kendall Lamb, who right now is presumed to be a starter, getting as many reps as possible for Patrick Paul, I think is a win for Miami. I'm not saying that's their school of thought with not having Terron Armstead play. I don't know if it was the short week is specifically why they did not participate all 3 days for Terron Armstead. But I think it's very notable that he has a track record of doing this in Miami and that it was a short week and he's listed on the injury report with rest as one of the designations and is questionable. I think that I interpret all of that to say I have no question or very little question, I should say, on whether or not Terron Armstead is going to play. I expect him to play. Alec Ingold, limited. Mike McDaniel said there was no regression there during the week as of at least this morning. I think that's good. I'd expect he plays as long as nothing heats up over the next 2 days. And Robert Jones, the starting guard, is listed as questionable. He said he intends to plan to play through the pain. Mike said he had a good day of practice on Thursday and he was a limited participant. He was a limited participant again today. I would expect that he's going to be good to go as well. So I think out of those 4 starters, I would expect you're only going to be without Kendall Fuller in this game. Now, maybe something changes over the next 2 days, so don't hold it against me if that's the case. But that's just how I read the tea leaves with the team and their player situations and so on and so forth. The other 2 are Patrick McMorris and Isaiah Wynn. McMorris was a full participant in both days of practice, or in all 3 days of practice. but he's questionable because he's not on the active roster. He has had his window to return activated. And you would think the Dolphins, when they have wiggle room to do this, and he's a rookie that hasn't really established a role on the team yet, they're probably waiting to see if an opening declares itself with a player that takes an injury to take that opportunity to activate him and put him on instead of having to cut a player prematurely. But because he doesn't have an established role, I don't think he'll be activated for this. Mike kind of alluded to that himself at the beginning of the week. And then Isaiah Wynn was limited in all 3 days of practice with quad/knee in his bid to return after the quad injury suffered last year against Philadelphia on Sunday Night Football. He is questionable. He's also not on the 53 right now. He's designated to return from the PUP. And I think that is somebody that we'll see unfold in the next couple of weeks as well. So I think you'll get Armstead, Ingold, and Jones. Fuller is confirmed out. I think neither McMorris or Wynn get activated. The only other name that popped up that was of like particular concern was Jalen Ramsey, who went from a full participant on Wednesday in a walkthrough to Thursday was limited with what's listed as a knee. He has no injury designation. He will play, which is good news for Miami. You had Julian Hill, Tyreek Hill, Javon Holland, Kader Kohu, Jack Stahl. All of these guys were full participants. And then there was Calais Campbell and Jordan Poyer, both as guys with rest, were fully removed off of the injury report on Friday altogether. So all things considered, guys on the active roster, I think you're really only looking at being without Kendall Fuller for this game. And you contrast that to the Raiders. Nate Hobbs, confirmed out. Andre James, confirmed out. Cody Whitehair, confirmed out. Harrison Bryant, one of their tight ends, their third tight end, but he might be their tight end too because Michael Mayer might not play. He's confirmed out. Michael Mayer's questionable with personal issues that kept him out since week 2. So the injury report, I think, is another layer to this game in addition to West Coast team. It comes to the East Coast, although they're coming off a bye week, so that kind of neutralizes some of that to a certain degree, but their team that is going to be in black and playing in the South Florida sun, even if it's November, and the injury report, and there's I think a talent and a momentum element of this team that favors Miami as well. So I think all of that adds up and just kind of feeds into my expectation. Now, the last thing I have for you today, the news came out courtesy of Mike McDonald, the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. Why don't we talk about the Seahawks in week 11, Kyle? Connor Williams is retiring. I'm going to wish him the best next year on Locked On Dolphins. Make sure you stick with us. Time is your most precious commodity, so don't waste it doom scrolling on social media for hours and hours. How can you spend time to wisely improve yourself? Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free, that's right, free online courses, including Constitution 101, the meaning and history of the Constitution, Introduction to Free Market Economics, Rise and Fall of the Roman Republic, and much more. All of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced, so you can start whenever, tune in wherever. Plus, you can go deeper with readings, quizzes, discussions, or you can just enjoy the lectures. Right now, you can go to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. Hillsdale.edu/lockedon. Surprising, but a bummer for Connor Williams. Mike McDonald, Connor, 27 years old, had started every game for Seattle this year coming off of the season-ending injury that he suffered last year in December against the Titans. This was a player who gave the Dolphins 2 really good years of center play. Felt like he was in the prime of his career. You could tell there was a desire to get a contract done last summer from Connor going into the 2023 season and get an extension done. And that didn't happen. And then Connor goes out and he gets hurt against, was it Denver? He went down in the pile and then missed some time and came back against the Giants and re-aggravated and missed more time. And then he came back and it looked like he was putting it all together. And then he goes down, gets rolled up on a really nasty play against the Titans and tears his ACL. He deserves a ton of credit for getting ready to play and for getting back up on the horse and getting an opportunity and signing a contract in Seattle and starting the first half of the season. But it underscores a couple things. It underscores the ugliness of this game sometimes, that a player who's 27 years old and was on the cusp of potentially signing a $10+ million per season contract extension to play center gets hurt and within less than a calendar year is retiring from the game of football. That sucks. So I wish Connor the best for all of that. It also underscores to some degree, sometimes there's more to the human element of a lot of personnel decisions. And this kind of falls back in line with a different angle of human element to the game of football that we went over yesterday at the end of yesterday's show too. But sometimes players have other stuff going on. And I'm not saying Connor had stuff going on off the field, but like his recovery from an injury, Dolphins caught a lot of heat for not bringing Connor Williams back and committing to Aaron Brewer to be the center. And then they still felt like they needed a guard and they wanted him to sign to play guard. I can tell you that Connor Williams didn't want to sign back to Miami to play guard. He wanted to play center because he knew his individual earning potential was highest at center. But that injury, coming back from it, and that process, now netting a retirement, is just a nice reminder that these guys go through a lot that you don't see, right? Like we only tune in on Sunday and watch him for 3.5, 4 hours. But everything else that goes into that and what that looked like for Connor, I can't imagine for him to have come to this decision at 27 years old when potentially if he could have gutted it out, he could have got the contract extension that he was looking for. I don't know that it would have been what it looked like it was going to be after his first year in Miami. And I wonder how much of that hardship Miami knew throughout their process of not bringing Connor Williams back. And there's plenty of mistakes that the Dolphins have made this offseason this past offseason from a player personnel standpoint and an investment standpoint and a decision-making standpoint. But one thing I can't do is look at how Aaron Brewer's playing for dollars that were equal to what Connor Williams was getting when the salary cap is now bigger, so it's a lower percentage of your salary cap, and the quality of play that he's giving you, and say that this wasn't the right decision. And you know, the affirmation of this is whatever Connor's individual experience has been like for the past 10, 11 months, he's deciding to retire at 27 years old. And that sucks. So wishing Connor Williams the absolute best. We'll have a lot of fond memories of the tape that he put on display in this Dolphins offense. I was glad that he got to seemingly go out on his terms and get back on the field after that injury suffered against Tennessee. But Connor Williams retiring at the age of 27, hanging up the cleats after half a season starting in Seattle. That's going to do it for us here on Locked On Dolphins. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. You can keep it locked in. I'll be back after the game on Sunday to bring you all of my reactions. We also have a postcast from Locked On Sports Miami that you have to look forward to on your podcast feed as well. It won't go on the YouTube feed, but it will go on the podcast feed. So don't be surprised when you see a postcast and it's not me. I will have my own post-game show and it will be up shortly after the game is over as well. Hope to go over another Dolphins win. We will see you after the game on Sunday. Enjoy your weekend.